Welcome to the First Cut Podcast. I'm Rick Gaiman, and today we're breaking down the fourth round of the Memorial and everything we saw all week long. Joining me to do so, fresh off his sweet TV hit, it's Greg Ducharme. What up, Greg?
All good. This was quite
Can
a
I
week.
say that? Can I say that you're fresh off your hit? Okay.
Well, by the time this airs, we'll be all right, I think. So we're good. We're good.
Beauty. No spoilers.
Yeah. So all good. Everything going really well. It was a great weekend. A couple things disappointed me this weekend. I was disappointed with a couple things that happened over the weekend, but all in all, it was great. It's great for Jon Rahm to get the win. So very exciting.
We are going to get to at least one of those disappointments, I know, coming up. Also joining us this evening is Kyle Porter. What up, KP?
Not much. Another week, another week of excitement. It feels like every week's been awesome, and it's been that way for different reasons. They haven't all been exactly the same, but this was maybe, I don't know, last week's tough to top, but overall, I think this week was probably my favorite for all 4 days, just because the way everything played out.
This was an 8-shot lead with like 10 holes to go, and it was still filled with drama and still entertaining, which is hard to do.
How is it? How does this keep happening? I mean, I feel like the bigger the lead, the bigger the collapse always is. Like, when is somebody just gonna, like they were talking about in the broadcast, just make 18 straight pars and do exactly what we think they're gonna do? It never goes that way.
Well, to be fair, like Rahm touched, I think he might have touched like close to 21 strokes gained on the field, which is just a stupid number on 9. And so you're like, well, that has to come back a little bit, right? And it did, obviously, over the last 9. But yeah, it has been 4 straight weeks, I guess, of people just kind of trying to give away leads.
Reminder, we are on YouTube, so you can check us out on YouTube. Show us some love over there. Personally, I'm trying to outpace the Pick 6 pod. I saw they're also on YouTube. They've got a much bigger audience than we do, so it's like our little thing if we can outpace them. So go check us out on YouTube. Jon Rahm, here we go. It's technically a 3-shot victory after being assessed a 2-stroke penalty on 16. We'll talk about Greg. He is the new number 1 player in the world. Your thoughts?
It's been a long time coming. It's interesting that it's come after kind of in the restart. It hasn't been the play we've expected. Jon Rahm's we've been wondering, like, where is he? We were expecting him to burst through and contend for a week. And it took until this week, which was great. But I think it was definitely aided by the fact that Rory hasn't performed at the highest level, the level we expected him to perform at. Because before the restart, these two guys were top 5, top 10, both of them, each and every week. And it's really hard to gain ground on a guy when he finishes in the top 5 every week. So a little bit of a decline in performance from Rory and a big win. I mean, this is the biggest win of Jon Rahm's career, not just because he becomes world number 1, but it's an elevated status event on the PGA Tour. It's in major championship conditions against a great field. This was a big win for Jon Rahm.
He surpasses Rory McIlroy at the top of the golfing world, KP. But I guess I want to do 2 things here. A little bit, let's put it into perspective. Like, there's not been, and I think a lot of people don't realize this, there hasn't been a lot of guys who have been the number 1 player in the world.
Yeah.
Okay. And there's been a lot of great golfers who have never gotten to the number 1 player in the world. So this deserves its due credit.
For sure. I think he's the 24th. Is that the number that we had on there?
Yes.
24th guy to reach number 1.
We did a trivia game on this.
We did. I smoked you, Greg.
Yeah, that was embarrassing. I shouldn't have brought that up.
Yeah, that was a self-own. I can't believe you did that.
That was an own goal, maybe.
Yeah. It's for you. It's for the fans.
So 24th guy, I think 10th Euro, and then obviously second Spaniard behind Seve. And it is hard because you look at Rahm, and over the last year, I guess, he's been awesome. The last 5 months, he's been okay. Not like, I mean, obviously we haven't played for a lot of that, but the last 5 months of play, I guess, 2020 essentially, he's been good, but not like number 1 in the world type. And so this is more of a validation of what he did at the end of last year than like this just mega hot streak coming into and winning the Memorial. But I agree with Greg. I think Memorial is a huge deal. And I made this point on HQ. I wrote about it a little bit as well. I think it proves to himself that he can win a major. He's won everywhere. He's won Irish Open. He's won Dubai. He's won Torrey. He's won all these different places. But he hasn't won in major-like conditions. Like this, I mean, the course, the separation on the leaderboard, we've talked about it all week. Everything about this was major-like. And I think for him mentally, it's just a good place to be. Because even though you didn't win the Masters, the PGA, whatever, at least you know, like, okay, I know I can do that. And not that he needed that confidence, but I don't know. I don't feel like that's nothing. I feel like that will be meaningful for him going forward.
Well, just to add to that real quick, the last time he was in contention in what you may call major-like conditions was at the Players' Championship, and he really gave that one away on the 11th hole, hitting it in the water, trying to hit some kind of a hero shot. So this was definitely a step in the right direction. And to add to your point, Kyle, I mean, he's won all over the world, but on the PGA Tour, he's only won, and this is his third individual event. The fourth win was with Ryan Palmer, ironically, at the Zurich. So he hasn't won as much as we feel like on the PGA Tour. And winning a big event on the PGA Tour like this definitely leads your mind into, okay, major championship is the next step for me.
I actually like the way he ascended to the world's number one. So it's never a fluke when you get to number one, really. But the fact that he didn't just go on a heater and win, like, I don't know, 3 out of 6 and then take it away from Rory, I think it is more indicative of his larger body of work, that he had kind of a slow start to 2020. Then he gets a big win, and now he's the number one player in the world. So I like the way he did that. Let's talk about his Sunday round, because for the first 9 holes, KP, this was Vince Carter gif. It was over. I mean, he was, what, 2 under, I think? Yeah, he went out in 34 on a day where everyone's getting their butts kicked. And I'm like, oh, my God, he's like, this is like, I'm snoozing over here. I'm falling asleep. Then he runs into a little bit of trouble.
Yeah, it was, I think there were like 6 guys under par, and he was one of them, and he was 2 under. There was the only guy better than him after the front 9, I think, was Fitzpatrick, who was 4. But, I mean, we talked about this on Saturday, right? Like, you're going to have a moment, and he had that moment on 10 and 11. He goes bogey double. And then this is dumb, and I probably shouldn't make this point, but I thought the shot on 12 on the par 3, where he like went after that pin, that back right pin that's kind of like tucked a little. You're like, geez, that's a tough pin. And he was like all over it.
I haven't seen – there was no one else who stops the ball on that green. And he got it to check up. It was unbelievable.
It was insane.
Backwards.
And I felt like that was a moment where I just felt like he was locked in mentally in a way that Greg talking about even the players last year, he just total ejection, right? Just mentally, just all over the place. And he hit some bad shots today, and he played a couple bad holes, but he didn't do that mentally. So 12, I thought, was huge. And then obviously 16, you're just hanging in. You hit, I mean, that shot's a joke. We can talk about the penalty, but to hit that, to land it where he did, I mean, if you are 6 inches shorter, it doesn't make it on the green. You're chipping again, probably. And if you're 2 feet longer, you've probably got a 15-footer coming back for par. And it was just, I just, to make that is, and I tweeted this, but like, it's unfair to be able to hit the ball like him and then have hands like that around the green. I mean, it's unbelievable. And yeah, I don't know. We can talk about the penalty, but we can go from there.
Let's talk about 16, because there was a lot going on. I mean, that was basically where it had gotten its closest, and Ryan Palmer had just hit, by all accounts, a pretty good shot into 16. He was just kind of on the fringe. He had a pretty decent chip at it. He was going to make par, and you're thinking, oh my gosh, Rahm's going to come one shot further back to the field. Now I guess he kind of ended up doing that with penalty shot or whatever. But Greg, this is going to go down as a bogey. Like, when we look back in history, this is a bogey on the scorecard because of the penalty, but this shot is unbelievable.
Well, it changes the entirety of the competition, right? The fact that Ryan Palmer thinks it's a 2, that alone changes the whole realm of competition. If he hits it 30 feet by and makes a 4, kind of, I'll call it the conventional way, then Ryan Palmer's sitting there thinking, all right, I got a real chance here. But now he has to hit a pitch shot from off the green where when you're looking at the position, when you're kind of comparing the position, you're saying, okay, if you're Ryan Palmer, advantage me. I can get myself even closer here by just making a par. All of a sudden he chips in and you're saying, well, now I got to make it, right? And it changes the whole complexion. Whenever there are rare situations, but when you don't know the score of a sporting event, it really changes the way people play it, right?
I think that's pretty much only golf. I think everybody else knows what the score is.
Yeah, you have to. Like well, maybe there's some instances in swimming or a timed event, right, in the Olympics where there's a discrepancy. But anyway, you're right. It happens in golf. It happened with Dustin Johnson at the U.S. Open at Oakmont, where Kyle has played. It was extremely.
Do you know where else Kyle has played? Kyle's also played Augusta. Did you know that, Greg?
There needs to be a Kyle bingo, like just Spieth and Oakmont.
Yeah, if you could hit, whenever you get a chance to hit him, you have to do it. But point being, it's important to know where you stand in an event. It affects your decision making, especially when you're in the group with that individual. So for that to go in and him still make a 4, it ends up not mattering because the effect of him making it still. Like Ryan Palmer still felt the effect of him making it. So it was a great shot. It was important to go in regardless of what happened, and memorable for sure.
So do you guys think that there should be some, I don't know how you would do this even, but like some way to like tell those guys as quickly as possible what's going on? Maybe they did. Maybe the quickest they could have told them was on 18 after the event was over. But go to you, Rick. I want to. What was your take on like should they try to get that ruling as fast as possible so that the last 2 holes can play out kind of fairly, whatever that means in that moment?
So yes. So I have a lot of thoughts about this because I hate golf rules in general, and the fact that this even became a penalty, Jon Rahm didn't know about it. No one knew about it is because we had a camera there. If the guys who came through 2 hours earlier might have done the same thing, didn't catch it on camera. Who knows? Who knows how many other times this has happened throughout the day. But I do think if you're going to like allow this, where it's like, oh, we're going to review this, then you have to do what you do in other sports, which is stop the game, huddle up, get a decision, and go from there. You can't like they don't review touchdowns in football and tell you the results of the touchdown after the game.
It would be insane.
It would be insane to do that. And it's insane that golf is the only sport that allows competition to go on to the point of we don't know what the score is. It's insane. So if we're going to allow this, there's got to be a better way to do it.
You're right on, Rick, because it is insane. But there's a fundamental difficulty in this, and golf has 150 balls in play. Probably not all at once. It's probably half of that in play. But I mean, you're looking at a number of golf balls in the air at the same time, and to stop everybody on the golf course. It seems easy when you're dealing with just the last group, right? Well, Ryan Palmer and Jon Rahm can just wait. We'll get it sorted out. But what happens if the guy in Ryan Palmer's position, the guy in second, is up ahead on 18? You're going to stop him and the group on 17 and the group on 16. So it becomes extremely challenging. And I think the only way to solve it, and I'm not sure this is the right thing to do, is you just eliminate the camera penalty, which still throws people into a tizzy. I mean, imagine if the Patrick Reed situation was like, well, we didn't catch it live, even though it's on camera, we can't call it. So it kind of goes, it's a little bit of a double-edged sword.
It is, for sure. And it sort of artificially, not artificially, it penalizes guys that are in the lead, right? Because you have all the cameras.
Correct.
This is the Tiger thing. Like how many more shots of Tiger? Like if you had a chart showing shots since 2000 on live television, it'd be Tiger, it'd be Phil, and then nobody else would even be on the chart.
Also, how about this? It is very easy to assess a 2-shot penalty when the guy wins by 5. If Rahm wins this by 1 shot, there is no chance. First of all, there's no chance they're giving him this penalty. There's no chance. They would figure out some other rule that says intent or blah, blah, blah. Did it improve his lie? Like whatever. There would have been some other rule. You can't take the trophy out of his hand. So it's like, I don't know. It's weird. I hate it. I don't know.
I've gotten to the point where I'm like people will tweet out like what the rule says, and I'm like, I don't even care. Like,
Yeah.
I don't care. Like, and I should, because I have to write about this, and eventually I will read it. But the language is so like loopholey and obfuscated that you're like, I don't even know where to start. I don't even. So my first year covering golf for CBS was 13. So Tiger off the stick at Augusta on the 15th hole, and it came out late that night, right? It was Friday night, and it came out like 11 o'clock, midnight. Stuff started happening, and I didn't know what I was doing. Like, I had no clue, like, how to cover. I had just no idea. And I had like had a beer with my wife or something, and I'm like, I was like getting into the USGA rule book, and I was like, I don't know what I'm reading. I don't, like, even if I hadn't had a beer, I wouldn't know. And the fact that I have makes it that much worse. This is insane. Like, I have no idea what's going on. And that's sort of where we're at with all these rulings now. And it's become worse and not better. I'm with Greg. I wrote this 2 years ago. Burn the rule book. There should be like 8 rules. There shouldn't be 450 pages of rules. I mean, it's insane. It's so frustrating to cover a sport that's like that.
Well, I could spend 3 more hours on the rule thing. It's crazy. Well, I will say this. Here's a couple of fun little tidbits from the rest of this round here. So Jon Rahm's 75 is going to be the highest final round by a winner this season. Second on that list was Terrell Hatton. Pew pew. If you're watching on YouTube, I just Ty Hatton shotgun that. And now 4 straight seasons of victories for Jon Rahm. So we'll do a little impromptu prop game, gentlemen. We'll start with you, Greg. Is Jon Rahm the number 1 player at the end of 2020?
Yes. And I say that for a couple of reasons. Now that he has it, I believe that Jon Rahm's game is well-rounded enough where he can contend on all sorts of golf courses, all sorts of venues. And I think the remainder of the schedule kind of suits him well. So I guess there kind of needs to be a follow-up question. You talking end of the season or end of 2020?
No, 2020, because that would be the year end of like the official world golf rankings.
Yeah, good point. So I do believe I think the major championships coming up, I think Jon Rahm just proved to himself that he can hang, he can deal with it. He can handle the deep bunkers at Winged Foot and the high rough and the really fast greens that get crazy firm. He can handle the 11th hole. I mean, whatever there's something about the 11th hole when it's a par 5, it doesn't go very well for him. So at Augusta, fortunately, it's not a par 5. It's not a par 5 at Winged Foot. So I do think Jon Rahm has the game to be a world number 1. Great putting stroke, great driver of the golf ball. He's great with his irons, and the short game is, like Kyle said, it's unfair to have hands like that. So yeah, I think he can do it.
All right, KP, what say you?
I kind of agree. Like, I think momentum is big with him because he's so emotional. But I don't know. I'd have to look at like what, like, is he up like 0.001 on Rory, or is it like, is it, you know?
So I'll tell you what he is. So he's at 9.1 is his average, and Rory's at 8.5 essentially. So to put that into perspective, Rory's a full point ahead of Justin Thomas in third. I mean, it's close enough. I guess.
I'm going to say no, just not because of Rahm necessarily. I think Rahm will have success at these majors, but I think JT, Rory, somebody behind him might win one of them, right? And then all of a sudden you jump over. So yeah, I'll say no, but not necessarily because of Rahm.
I think that's where I land as well. If Rory wins like his next start, he probably just takes it right back without knowing, because he's probably going to play again, WGC, something like that. So, yeah. So it'll be interesting to see. I put out a Twitter poll at the beginning of the restart. It was like, who's going to be it might take a while, but who's going to be the next person to overtake Rory McIlroy in the number 1? And it got like JT had a lot of votes, and like Brooks had a lot of votes, and Rahm obviously had a lot of votes, and Rahm was the one to do it.
Who do you guys think is going to be the next number 1 after Rahm?
Bryson.
Well, sorry, that's a bad way to phrase it. The next, like the 25th guy to be the number 1 player in the world.
Okay, that
I'm going to stick with Bryson.
That's pretty good, yeah. Bryson, or it could be Webb.
I would like that.
Wow, I would like that too.
Because also Webb is going to play like 5 events a year that these other guys aren't, which is like Wyndham, RSN. Like he'll play like some weird ones, and he'll be like the overwhelming favorite.
Yeah.
And if he wins one and then does what he does kind of everywhere else, he could like sneak up on the number 1 spot.
I mean, he could have had it this week, right?
Yeah.
If he would have won, I think Bryson is a pretty good pick because I just we can talk about him if we want. There's too many guys to talk about. We don't have 5 hours, but I think he's going to kill at these 3M Opens, at these Rocket Mortgage Classics. I think he's going to just destroy them. But we saw this week, like, when you get out of position in a major championship course like this, when you're not playing the right angle into some of these greens, it's problematic. And that's why, that's why I go back to the Harden thing of like, you're going to destroy in the regular season. It's going to be just carnage. But in the majors and when it counts, it's different. It's going to be different. And I'm interested to see how it goes for him.
Let's talk about Jon Rahm's Zurich Classic winning partner, Ryan Palmer. Pretty cool to see those two guys in the final group kind of rooting one another on. Greg, this was like a week of just a full hard reset for Ryan Palmer. You know, there is the well-documented fact that he misses the cut last week, goes home, gets like this emergency swing lesson. He grabs his putter that he used in college where I literally looked like he took a Sharpie to the back of it and put money signs on it. Like, this is like a hard, like I've done that too. I've just also never used that putter on the PGA Tour. Like a hard reset for Ryan Palmer, and it worked.
It worked extremely well. You know, this golf course played so different from last week. I wonder, it was almost like a new golf course. I know a lot of the sight lines are the same, but the areas where you had to land your ball this week was, it was crazy. And the other thing about that is when you know that scoring is not going to get to 25 under par, you don't feel like you have to shoot at every flag. So it suits Ryan Palmer's game in a great way. I mean, think back to the Sony Open this year where the wind was blowing like crazy. It was playing really difficult, and he was right there in the mix until hitting that 5-wood out of the bunker that was never to be found again, as Rick would say, to unknown. So we didn't know exactly this is kind of the golf course that suits Ryan Palmer, a guy who drives the ball really well. He's a steady iron player. And when he has something in his mind like that, Mark talks about it all the time. You just have one thing that you can stick to, one thing to find that swing thought that works for you, and you're a totally new player. So Ryan Palmer's been having a great year. And this week, the advantage for solid driving of the ball increased because the fairways got so firm and the rough came up a little bit and the greens get firmer, and he was rewarded for it in a lot of ways.
He's definitely having a better year than even like if you just pull up his like results, like they're better than that because he's had a couple of weird situations where he kind of lost it at the end. KP, he leads the field in strokes gained approach and will now be in the U.S. Open, thanks to his finish here this week. I mean, we're going to be seeing more of Ryan Palmer.
Yeah, for sure. I thought that, I don't know. I was really impressed by the way he hit it. I mean, to kind of what Greg was talking about, I feel like every time I looked up, I was like, wow, that was a great shot by Ryan Palmer. You know, even on Sunday, when the greens got baked out a little and you're like, there was a hole, I can't remember. I think it was on the back nine. It might've been 13. Where Rahm hit a wedge that hit the front of the green and like bounced all the way through. And it was the one where he was like covering his face because he couldn't believe it. And Palmer got one to stop like right next, I mean, you know, within 15, 20 feet. I was really impressed with how much control he had over his irons. And to that point, I mean, that's a good harbinger for Winged Foot, like for a US Open type setup. So yeah, I didn't know he wore Jordans either. He had the Jordan 11s on Saturday.
Yeah, those were Jordans.
That was sick. That was sweet. Love it.
Here's a fun little one for you, Greg. That penalty shot, that those 2 strokes assessed to Jon Rahm, if you bet Palmer over Rahm in a round 4 matchup, that cashed it for you.
That's dirty.
It's unbelievable. Matthew Fitzpatrick has bones on the bag. Greg, I mean, I don't know. Has he been doing this? Is this the second week they've done this? Do you know that story?
Well, I'm not sure if this is the first or second week, but he did say after the round that he was going to go back to his normal caddy. So I think it's a temporary thing for Bones. But yeah, Matthew Fitzpatrick, one of those guys who like he pops up. And this is something I wanted to bring up earlier in the Bryson conversation. There seems to be a point. I'd love to get you both of your takes on this, but there seems to be a point when greens get so firm that the advantage of like trajectory and spin almost diminishes, where wedges don't even stop on the green, and it becomes the value of short game goes up so much. The value of putting increases so much because everybody's missing greens even when they hit great shots. Whereas you go to a place like Augusta National, where the high ball hitters have such an advantage, it's because the greens are receptive enough to hold certain shots. They hold short irons, or they'll hold a shot that has a steep enough descent angle or something, enough spin, whatever. It seemed like this, it didn't matter. Like every shot was going to go to 40 feet past the hole or go over the back of the green. So putting and short game becomes very important. And that's what Matthew Fitzpatrick did so well.
I also think creativity goes a long way. Sorry, KP, I'll tee you up on this one. He also mentioned after the round, he kind of likes these hard setups, right? This is a good situation for him.
Yeah, he actually mentioned this. So this quote was from back in March. So this was after the Arnold Palmer. The scoring average there, I think the final round scoring average there was like 74 or 73. I mean, it was high.
Yeah.
Whenever Hatton went pew pew.
There it is.
And he said after the round there, he said, I would so much rather it play like this every week, where it's a battle and you've got to work hard and grind instead of wide open fairways, no win, and just shoot 65 and you move down, which is like a lot of PGA Tour setups. But that was a little bit of foreshadowing for this week. And to your point about the creativity, I think I think both of those are good points. The short game there is more impetus on that, but or there is more emphasis on that, but also the creativity. There were holes today that felt a little Open Championship-y, right? Mm-hmm. Like Phil, we can talk about Phil, but
oh yeah,
you almost have to you're not even really hitting these full shots. You're just kind of running it up and leaving yourself like a somewhat simple 2-putt par. You're not even going at pins. That's why some of the shots Rahm was hitting late, I was like, oh my gosh, like what, is he really going at that pin? I thought they were unbelievably impressive given the circumstances and given the way the course was playing. So yeah, I love the way that the course plays like that. And I think it works to somebody like Fitzpatrick's advantage, because he's not super long, but I think he is pretty creative. He is pretty clever. He is pretty nifty around those greens. So I thought that was I like it when courses are set up like that, because I think it rewards guys that have a bigger variety of shots rather than just hit it as far as you can.
His final round 68 was the round of the day. That's unbelievable. 68 out there
stupid.
Is wild stuff.
That's eight strokes gain.
Yeah,
unreal.
Right. Yeah, I don't know what the final number was, but yeah, 7.5.
It was 76.
Okay, yeah. Holy crap. Yeah,
8 strokes gain. Just for people that are listening, like if you gain 10, that's like probably the round of the year on the PGA Tour. 10, 11 is just unfathomable. So to gain 8, it's pretty awesome.
Only round in the 60s all day.
Yeah,
pretty cool.
68.
Yeah,
which is crazy. Tony Finau probably would have paid a lot of money for a 68, Greg. I didn't have a great segue into that one. Sometimes I get set up into really easy transitions. That one, not so much.
I liked it.
There was a point of this event on Saturday where Tony Finau was at 12 under par, which if he could have just ended there, would have ran away with this thing. 12 under on his first 47 holes, Greg. 10 over on his last 25. It got ugly for Tony.
This is one of the things we talked about this at the top. A couple things disappointed me. This is all a couple of them. This is
every hole. Tony on the 10th hole, Tony on the 11th hole. Tony.
Like this guy is so good. His play, like everything about him would tell you that this is the kind of, maybe not everything, but this is the kind of golf course he should do well at. He's really calm. He's cool. He's strong. He's got a ton of length. I mean, apparently, I don't know how far he can really hit the ball, but it seems like his ball speeds can rival Bryson's when he wants to. I don't think he can control it in the way that Bryson does. But, I mean, this guy is immensely talented. And when he's putting the way that he was putting, you expect him to do really well, right? And come out and win and get the job done, right? Break the curse, Rick. I'll bring that up for you.
Thank you.
It doesn't happen. And it's there's like a clear turning point, right? You look at Saturday and he gets through the 11th hole and he's got, I mean, what was the lead? It's a 4-shot lead. He has a 4-shot lead and then makes double on the very next hole. And that's the end. Like right there on 12, one moment ends the tournament for him. And it's not easy to do. Rahm almost did the same thing, right? He gets to number 10. So this is where there are these two parallels. And I know this is getting long-winded, but you have Tony Finau gets to where he has a 4-shot lead after the 11th hole and then makes a double on 12. There's a moment there where I believe he says, okay, wow, I have a chance to win this thing. I can win this tournament. Jon Rahm gets to the 10th tee, which is the same place where Rory McIlroy got to in the Masters in 2011.
It's got to bring that up.
Turning point. Yeah, I have to, because it's now all of a sudden your mind goes from I'm taking it one shot at a time to I'm reading the paper. Look what I can accomplish. Rory's saying I can win my first major. I can win a green jacket, and then it goes sideways because you get to the back nine. That's my take.
I think
Tony go ahead, Kyle.
Well, the weird part about that is it doesn't seem like his demeanor or like what he's doing changes. Does it? Or does he or is he like speeding up? Is he like getting, I mean, like his facial expression doesn't, but maybe his swing and his body are like getting ahead of like what he's trying to do.
I look at the body language and there's a slight change. It goes from, okay, this is a guy who's extremely confident, right? Nodding his head. He's like, yeah, I got this, to a guy who kind of like his eyes almost change slightly. Like, oh man, there's like a little slight slump in the shoulders. It just, the energy changes. You can feel it. You can see it happening. I mean, you probably knew it was all going to happen. We may have even been texting about it. On the 12th hole, we say, here we go again. This is Tony Finau doing what Tony does, right? Or maybe there's some other comments made about it, but you can see it change in an instant. And I believe it happens when he says in his mind, instead of, okay, what do I have to do on this shot? He says, I can win this tournament.
It's certainly not. I like Tony. Like, I've talked to him a little bit. He's like the nicest guy. I don't think you talk to anybody on tour who doesn't like him. I mean, his Ryder Cup in 18 was awesome. Like, just really fun. He's a great player. I don't know. I don't know what it is about when he gets to the end of these tournaments and it's like, it's right there, man. Like, and then a 16-shot swing in 16 holes over the course of 2 days. That is like, that's crazy. I mean, I know Rahm went out and got it, but like, you got to like show some fight. I mean, you're right there and it's a huge deal. It's a big tournament. And he just, I don't know. It was disappointing. I was disappointed with the way he kind of closed that out.
It would be one thing to just finish second to Jon Rahm and have him beat you. Otherwise, instead of shooting, like 16 over par in your last 27 holes or whatever it ended up being.
You go shoot 42 on your first 9 on Sunday.
Do you guys know how old Tony Finau is?
Ooh, can we guess?
Yeah.
Oh man, is he one of those guys? I bet you he's 28.
I think he's a little older. What is he, 32?
He's 30.
30.
Split the difference.
Yeah. I thought he was like,
you would win, Rick, because I went over.
I thought he was like 37.
Yeah, I mean, he kind of looks. He's either one of those guys who like it looks way older than he is, or looks way younger than he is, but I don't know which one.
He's got like a bunch of kids, and he's just I didn't think of him as being 30. My favorite Tony Finau moment, by the way, Ryder Cup in 18, where he made that putt. I can't remember who it was on, but it was in 4-ball on like Saturday or something, and he did that point. And his fingers like 8 feet long
out of the frame.
And it was like, it took up the whole, it was awesome. That was one of the best Ryder Cup moments. It was great.
Before we get to break and before we talk Tiger and a couple odds and ends, following up on something earlier, KP said that when you get into 10 strokes gained for a round, that is like round of the year. And that's why he's KP, because the round of this season, 9.92 is the best round of 2020 thus far.
Wait, let me guess. Let me guess.
Okay. I was gonna say, do you want to guess?
Was it in the fall or the spring?
It's PGA Tour season. They're all
Oh,
the same.
I know who it
We're not
is.
supposed to call it. We're not supposed to call it. What are we supposed to call it now? The wraparound season?
Well,
We're not-
but I mean, was it in 19 or 20?
it was in 19.
Yeah.
Jacob definitely doesn't know. I can see his face.
I think I'm pretty sure I know.
It
Go
feels like
ahead, Greg.
1,000 years ago.
It has to be a 59. It's got to be Kevin Chappell's 59.
It's Kevin Chappell's
Oh,
59.
Wow.
The
What a
second
call.
second round of the Greenbrier. So the first event of the year, the second round of the year, Kevin Chappell shoots a 59, gains 9.9 strokes. So there are only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 other rounds where he gains eight or more strokes in a single round. So Fitzpatrick will be the 9th if whatever.
You could have told me the Chapel round happened in any of the last 8 years, and I would have been like, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what did he shoot after? He shot like some crazy high score after that.
Yeah. It was like a 20 stroke difference or
I
something.
want to see the 59-80 swing, just nothing in the 60s or 70s.
All right, we're going to talk Tiger. We got a couple odds and ends on the other side, but first we're going to take a quick break and hear a word from our partners. Tiger Woods just played in his first official PGA Tour event since February at the Genesis Invitational. Greg, we'll start with you. At least he got to play 4. I mean, general takeaways here. I mean, it's a lot about reps, but we always have such high expectations for Tiger. Where do we fall?
Well, we're in this position now. There's a lot to talk about in his game, right? I mean, the iron play was great. Putting around the greens, not so great. There's so many ways you can go discussing Tiger Woods. But unfortunately, the reality of the situation, in my opinion, is we're at a point where Tiger Woods is day to day. Is he going to feel good one day or is he not going to feel good one day? And that's just the result we're going to get. And it sadly limits the amount of playing opportunities he's going to have. And it limits the opportunities that he has to win. So we like there's no point. It's almost like Jason Day. There's not a point you get to where, okay, he's healthy now. I fell for the trap again this week. Thought he was going to have a great week because he's healthy. He's had all this time off. But what I learned this week is that time off doesn't extend over time. Like once it doesn't matter if you've had a week off or if you've had a month off, that back can stiffen up any day. And it's kind of just a sad reality. But man, I mean, it's great to watch him play. And every opportunity we get from here on out, I know I'm going to be extremely appreciative of.
The physical side is certainly one thing, KP. The stat side of it, I mean, he was pretty good with his irons. Like gained over 5 strokes on approach. It was the short game that kind of let him down.
Yeah, it was. I thought that I can't remember where we talked. I might have already said this on a podcast. I've said things so many places this week, but I think it's really fun to watch him try to hold some of these irons and wedges against this wind and some of the greens you saw at Memorial. He just shines there. And if he's not feeling well or whatever, it almost doesn't matter. Like that's just what he was. It's just what he's best at. And so it's so fun to watch him be able to do that. And I thought he did it great. And I think that's the thing where you look at it and you're like, I don't know. I'm not discouraged. I'm actually a little bit encouraged by the fact that the thing that I need to be good going into this major run is your tee to green stuff. How sharp are you with your irons? The driver's always going to be hit or miss with him, but how sharp are you with your irons? I thought he was pretty good. Maybe the long irons need a little bit of work. And definitely the short game, but the short game, I don't know. That can be worked on. That can be improved. The tee to green stuff, that sometimes takes a longer amount of time. So I actually come away from this week, even though he finished T40, thinking like, yeah, I think he could like contend at the PGA. I don't know that he's going to win it, but I don't see any reason that he can't contend.
See, there's the one thing about real quick, Rick. Sorry,
sure.
The short game you mentioned that can be worked on. When you have a bad back, that's the hardest thing to practice. The short game and the putting, like you can't spend the hours that you used to be able to spend. That's why health is such a big deal. And so, it's easier to practice a driver when you have a bad back than it is to practice a putting. It sounds crazy, but it's just the posturing and how much time you're standing in that posture. So for Tiger to win again, and I certainly believe that he can, we're not going to have any Phil Mickelson moments here with this one, but he's going to have to hit the ball extremely well. And he's got to drive it into the fairway so he can utilize that control he has with the irons. And then lastly, I think it has to be warm, because when it's warm, it just increases his chances of feeling good. And when it's cold, in my opinion, it decreases his chances of feeling good. So I don't think you're going to see Tiger winning in a sweater. I think you're going to see him winning on like a 4-shirt kind of a day where it's really hot.
Well,
I need more apparel takes.
Sweater Tiger versus 4-shirt Tiger. Well, the $1 million question, gentlemen, is when we're going to see him next. And our very own Amanda Balionis asked him that after his round.
What's your consideration when you think about when you're going to tee it up next? With a major championship looming, what are the biggest factors that determine when you play, when you don't play, and why?
Well, I think it's just planning and making sure that we have a plan and this return to golf. This was the start of it, and we'll see what happens in the near future.
Do you know when we'll see you next?
Soon.
I thought that was going to be the answer.
Yeah.
Thank you.
There you go, KP. Soon.
I don't understand, like, why is Tiger's schedule like a national secret? Like, why does he have like?
Do you want to know why? I think it's because he doesn't know.
Really?
I think he has an idea, but I also think it's like, holy crap! I woke up and I don't feel well enough to play the Players, so I better not commit like 2 months out or 2 weeks out or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, I think he literally has an idea of where he wants to play and doesn't know if he can physically do it until the week up.
Yeah, it's so like, I don't know. Like, he's so secretive about stuff like that. I'm like, bro, I don't really care if you play Memphis or Harding Park or whatever. Like, it's, but just show up and we'll cover it and we'll move on to the next one. So I can't. He can't go to Memphis, right? Like, he's not going to go. He's going to go through 40 shirts, not 4 in the late July heat in Memphis. So I think it's PGA. I think that, yeah, again, like, I think that he can be competitive there. I keep going back to it. We can't overstate it. The 7 majors in 11 or 12 months, whatever it is, that's a big deal for him, because that's the last, like, it's not the last hurrah, but it could be the last, like, real, like, condensed shot at if he can rip off like 2 of those, I mean, then you're talking about he could legit get to 18. And this sounds dumb and crazy based on the way he played, but I just think everything about the next 12 or 13 months is gonna point to that for him.
So do you think his game, I'll ask you both this, do you think Tiger, with basically playing the Memorial and the PGA, can have his game ready to contend at Winged Foot? Like, can his game get ready in that short period of time with just basically you're playing 3 extremely difficult golf courses, and that's it? Can your game get, like, is there a point where you need to shake off the rust a little bit? I feel like Memphis would be a great step for him.
I don't know how he plays Memphis, just because then he's gonna have to go back to back at PGA. I don't know. I think you're right, Greg. I think it's a really fine line of tournament reps versus rest. Like, I think he needs more reps, and I think he needs more rest. And I don't have a solution to both of those, because they negatively correlate with one another. So I don't know, KP, what do you think?
Well, I go back to Zozo last year, and great field, good tournament. He hadn't played in 10 weeks. He had the surgery or the procedure, whatever it was. And Gary Woodland played with him on Saturday and Sunday and was like, I've never seen anybody control the ball like this. And you're like, oh, well, I get it. Like, that Zozo's not a major, right? That's not a major type course or whatever. But I just think it's rest over reps. I could be talked into Greg's point. I think it's a good point. And I think especially the short game stuff, that stuff takes a little bit to get worked out, but I don't know. I think he's done it for so long, done it so many times, that if you shoot 71 on Thursday at Winged Foot, he just kind of hops into, like, I know what this feels like. I'm back in it. Let's go.
I hope so. It's high level. It's just so high level out there, where, like, you have to be there. You miss by a yard, and it doesn't mean you're 25 feet. It could mean, on that first green, you miss short by 2 feet in some hole locations, and you could have 60 feet away, and you got 3 feet where you can get your ball to stop. Like, it gets crazy out there. And I just wonder if he's had the reps to compete at that. I mean, that is like next level. It's like Oakmont, right? It is as hard as it gets.
Well, remember when it was in 15 when he was like blading wedges into the stands in Phoenix?
Yeah.
Stubbing chips.
And he doesn't play from then until the Masters, and he finishes like T19. And you're like, that's insane. Like, that is crazy to be able to do that. Now, is it advisable? Is it ideal? No. Like, ideally, he could play Memphis, or he could get another tournament in or whatever. But I just think that's where we're at with Tiger. I mean, I think that's just what the deal is.
Yeah, very interested to see how the rest of this season goes for him. Couple quick odds and ends, gentlemen. We'll run through these fairly quickly. Greg, Phil Mickelson putted from 78 yards out, then had to use his wedge, then his putter again. That's rare. Putter, wedge, putter. He also laid up on a par 3. He also, on PGA Tour Live, made sure that his Coffee for Wellness cup was facing the camera in between his putts. This guy had a full day.
It's something else. I mean, he is one of a kind. You love seeing it. Now, a couple things. The putt, maybe there's a moment here where he's he overthinks things a little bit.
Yeah.
Right. So, but I understand where he's coming from. There's a logic to it in a strange way. This is Open Championship like. It's extremely firm. You have no idea what's going to happen on the bounce. And my guess is he's saying, well, I play this on the ground, I have the best chance. Going with the putter seems extreme. You would think maybe like a 7-iron or like a more traditional chip and run might work a little bit better than putting. It's just, I mean, it makes you laugh, but I understand in a strange way where he's coming from with that. The whole locations on those greens were so tucked today. And it hasn't really been talked about a lot, but I mean, they were all within 6 yards of an edge. There was only one at 6. Every other one was 5 or below, which is so tight. And when the greens are that firm, there's not a lot of room out there. So trying to land your ball over the corner of that bunker and getting it to stop, he must have felt like it just wasn't possible.
I've never related more to Phil when he left it short on that putt and he said, I saw that playing out differently in my mind. Which is like, yeah, I bet you did, because I didn't think that was the play. KP, I'll go to you on this one. Literally the outline just says Jordan Spieth not terrible this week. That's all it says.
Yeah, hold on just a second. Did you guys know that there's a Coffee for Wellness website? It looks like you follow this Twitter account, Greg.
Yeah.
Are you in deep with Big Coffee?
Well, Dave Phillips is also involved in Coffee for Wellness, and he's a friend of ours. So love Dave Phillips, and so I mean, I'm not in deep, but I know a guy. I
got a guy.
I will shill Coffee for Wellness on this pod. Get them in touch with me. Let's go, Jake.
Look, this stuff is on its way up. I don't even think it's out yet officially, but it's a great product that they speak extremely highly of, and I haven't even tried it yet. So once I try it, I'll give a full review. We can maybe do a full day on it.
We should make it a video podcast. Real quick on Phil before we go to Spieth. I can't believe I'm defending this. I feel like laying up on 16 was the right play. Like I don't feel like that was necessarily wrong.
Where did he try to hit it in the bunker? Was it Open Championship where he tried to hit it into? It wasn't Troon, was it? Where was that?
No, I don't think it was Troon.
Because Troon, he was on fire. He didn't have to go there.
Yeah.
It was somewhere else where he aimed for the bunker and got up and down from there.
It might have been St. Andrews, honestly. But I do remember that. It's incredible. Spieth's just psychotic final round. He had 4 pars in his last 14 holes and shot 75. I don't even know what happened. He was kind of hovering around the top 10. What were his final numbers? Let me pull that up real quick.
He had a putt for top 10, didn't he?
Yeah, so he finished T13.
Yeah.
So his final numbers, he was 8th from tee to green.
That's crazy.
That's encouraging.
Is that consistency?
I need to see
the first time he's ever done it for 4 rounds.
Yeah, I was gonna say I need to see it for like more than a week. 48th in putting, so that's a good formula for him. I want him to be like in a final pairing. It's just so, and not to take anything away from Rahm or any of these guys. Golf's been unbelievable since we come back, but it's fun whenever he's really in it every once in a while. Like Colonial, he was sort of in it, but Sunday was
he had our attention on Sunday big time at Colonial.
Yeah.
Greg knows that he missed a putt on 18 because that gave Patrick Reed the head-to-head matchup win, which was Greg's best bet of the week.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. My strategy going into that, I was picking on him kind of like, as I said, Rick, a cornerback in the NFL that's maybe a backup or something. So I was picking on Spieth, and I think I'm going to stop picking on him. I think he showed me something. He can hang.
All right, we'll see. Speaking of head-to-head, so the matchup challenge, Greg and Kyle both went 5-5. I went 6-4, and that darn Mark Immelman got us all again. Went 8-2. He is 16-6 in his last 2 weeks, and he retains the matchup challenge belt. This guy's killing us. We got to figure something out.
We want to talk about one and done. I want to talk about a different contest.
Oh, yeah, we got to figure that out.
I do not want to talk about that.
Real quick on next week. So we got the 3M Open, TPC Twin Cities. Second year this tournament is going to exist. Greg and I will break down all the DFS stuff next week. But this is the first event of the restart where the strength of field this year is worse than last year's. Now, we've been very fortunate with the fields that we have had this season, so it's not necessarily a knock to the 3M Open, Greg, but there's going to be a couple of names there. There's guys with a lot of question marks. Dustin Johnson, I have no idea what's going on. Brooks Koepka's got some Brooks Koepka's got some work to do if he wants to find himself at Eastlake. And Tommy Fleetwood is going to make his first start back in, I think, since API.
Can you imagine that Brooks Koepka might actually not make it into the FedEx Cup playoffs? Like that, there's a chance that happens. It's crazy.
I think it's a good chance.
Yeah, it is. It looks more likely than not right now. It's which I you can't say. He's got a major beforehand, right? So you figure he's going to accumulate some points there. But Dustin Johnson shot 280s this week, and Brooks Koepka shot 80 on Sunday. So, yeah, some really high scores. But that being said, completely different experience they're going to have this week at the 3M Open. Wide fairways. It's like going to a resort course. It's going to be much more open, much more space, especially without crowds there. And the greens won't be nearly as challenging. They will not be as firm and fast. So I look at these guys, and I think they're going to be able to get a little more comfortable this week. And if there are weaknesses, there clearly are weaknesses in their game, they won't be shown as much this week.
Kyle, you mentioned Matthew Wolff, I believe, on HQ earlier. And I loved that because he went out and he was brutal on Thursday at the Memorial. And then if you just filter by the last 3 rounds, so Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, he was 7th in strokes gained tee to green, played a lot better. Now he goes back for his first ever title defense.
Yeah, I said that on HQ, and I hadn't seen his back nine yet. He shot 40 on the back nine on Sunday, which wasn't great, but there's so much talent there, right? And we've talked about this a ton of different times of like the talent's not the issue; it's the consistency. It's where you at mentally. I think it's very different for him. It's a different experience for him to be defending this week rather than kind of chasing everybody. He's, you're the defending champ. It's not as big of a deal because there's no fans there, but it's still meaningful. It's still important. And that's just going to be an interesting spot. I'm interested to watch him. Fleetwood, I think, intrigues me. And then DJ, the Jerry Rice on Thursday, Friday. I don't know how that happens if you're Dustin Johnson. I don't understand. And it's almost as if like the win was the outlier. Because if you look at the last 15 months, he's been not good. And then he wins, and you're like, okay, well, that, back on track. And then he goes 80. I don't understand. Maybe there's nothing to understand. Maybe it's just DJ and you just move on to the next week. But I don't know. I don't get it.
Is there anybody who could shoot 80-80 who you could feel better about going into the next week than Dustin Johnson? Like you could almost completely write this off and just forget it ever happened because that he's already forgotten.
I was going to say he already has. Yeah, for sure.
That's a great – it's funny because when if I do like radio or HQ or whatever, they're like, do you think this will carry over for DJ into this tournament? I'm like, there's zero chance. Like that will not happen.
Yeah, we're talking about it longer than he even thought about it. So don't worry about it. All right, that'll do it. We are going to be back Monday evening for a DFS preview of the 3M Open. Greg and I are on that one. I want to thank Kyle Porter for joining me this evening. You can find him on Twitter at Kyle Porter CBS. I want to thank Greg Ducharme. You can find him on Twitter at TheRealGFD. You can find me on Twitter at Rick Run Good. This has been The First Cut. We'll catch you next time.